Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today is day 5 of Heart of Thorns. We're coming to a close on these kind of daily vlogs about how the expansion's been going. Go back to some more regular content soon enough. But I wanted to talk to you guys about what I did with the expansion today, some more news that came out. Of course, buried in the last vloggy style video I did talk about 2 big changes. Number 1 was the reduction in the cost of hero points that ArenaNet changed, and the other was also fixes to mega servers to allow the maps to feel much more populated, as they may not have done for some of us playing. It wasn't really an issue I'd had hit me, but it was something that was going on. So today, the main thing I did, now unfortunately I can't talk about very much of it because of spoilers, but today I actually did finish the Heart of Thorns story. Without giving any spoilers, I will say my general impressions of it are not 100% positive at all. I think the best way to sum this up, okay, is the personal story and launch Guild Wars 2, which I do not rate very well at all, okay? The launch Guild Wars 2 story was very broad in scope. It was a big story, it was an epic story, you know, with many, many different angles to it and exciting ideas, but told very poorly. And I actually think Heart of Thorns is the reverse of that. I think it's a very narrow scope story that is told very, very well. We'll get more into that discussion soon enough, but it's been pretty interesting. My main issue with going through all of the Heart of Thorns story content, and this is something that I'm definitely not trying to account for when talking to you guys about how good it is there has been some issue on my account, some issue on my client. A lot of Googling has only revealed a few people that have ever been hit by this, some of them up to a couple of months ago. It's definitely not a Heart of Thorns based thing is what I'm saying, but there's some issue with my client where if I'm doing a dungeon and a cutscene comes up, or if I'm in personal story and a cutscene comes up, I get disconnected. Like it's like a 50-50, it's like a coin toss after every cutscene that plays in the game. My character just gets booted back to character select, and of course when it comes to stuff like story dungeons and story instances, that throws you back to the start. Heart of Thorns, guess what, uses a lot of cutscenes, and some of these instances I've done like 4 or 5 times, and some of them are really long. The final instance of Heart of Thorns, I think I was in there for like 2.5 hours, and I still, though having finished the story, don't actually have complete credit on my account for having finished it. Would you believe it? Because I'm getting kicked out right at the end of the last cutscene. But in any case, we'll do some more discussion on that soon. If you've not got very far in the story, I'd recommend you continue pressing forward with it. Any other stalling bugs, real Heart of Thorns bugs, I think have been resolved now. Even one of the rarer ones I came across appeared in a patch note. Patch notes, of course, flooding in. There have been changes for some of the other classes I've not really mentioned at all lately. Like Druid, some people were concerned. One of the earliest threads after Heart of Thorns came out was, Druid feels like it's been gutted since the betas. It feels like it's not so good anymore. And specifically, one of the core issues that Druids were having with Heart of Thorns was their Astral Force, I believe, never used to degenerate. But ArenaNet changed it so that it did degenerate with actual Heart of Thorns. The idea of the Druid, guys, as a healer, of course, we've got various healers in the game. If it ever becomes a viable thing, you'll see multiple classes can try it. And what was supposed to be distinct about Druid was it was more of a bursty healer. It would build up its Astral Force, it would go into its Astral Form, and it would burst out tons of great heals, and then it would die away again for a while. And I think ArenaNet were trying to play into that a little bit more by making the Astral Force degenerate when you're out of combat. But basically, through its implementation, it was really crappy. That's, though, now been reversed, and there are so many patch notes still constantly flooding in. I'm just glad I made a decision when the X-Pack came out to not worry about them, because, my God, I would be talking for days and days and days on that alone. But as you've probably seen in the title, one big topic I want to raise to you guys today is making money in Heart of Thorns, because if you guys know me, I don't really play the trading post. I don't really experience a lot of that side of the game. I just kind of do what I want. Sometimes I've bought something. My first legendary, for example, I farmed in ore enough money to buy a ghastly grinning shield and a chain greatsword, and then maybe 5 months later I sold it and that paid for my incinerator, right? So I have done some stuff like that, but not too much proper investment wise. My main investment is in gold ingots, which has basically not paid off at all since Heart of Thorns came out, so that's fun, right? But there is a lot of money to be made. I really think if you guys haven't been sitting up and paying attention to it, you'd be surprised just how easy you can earn cash. Because of the new guild building systems, because of scribing, because of some of the new recipes, and specifically as well Night Fury, which we'll get to in a second, some items have a lot of value right now, and you've probably got a lot sat around on you already. So, for example, the first thing I was doing to make money in Heart of Thorns, and you guys can do too, is I was making leyline-infused tools. Now, if you remember the way that the guilds work, most guilds are trying to get their mines set up so that they can get lots of Ethereum in, which they can use to spend on other stuff, and they can build their guild hall up as fast as possible. So you invest in the thing that generates resources, the mine. Now, one of the mine upgrades, as far as I'm aware, requires these things called leyline-infused tools. You make leyline-infused tools as a 400 weaponsmith. So first of all, you need a 400 weaponsmith. If you don't have that, then you're not really going to earn very much money. But basically what you do is you combine together a charged quartz crystal, which you can only make one per day. So if you don't have many of those in your account, you probably can't earn a crazy amount of cash either. But if you've got a lot of those sitting around, basically with bloodstone dust, orichalcum picks, which cost like 4 silver, okay? And then another item, leyline infused sparks, an ascended item. With those, you can make these tools and get a crap ton of cash. I earned somewhere around 400 to 500 gold. And how did I do that? By making just a couple of leyline infused tools from the items that Personal Story gave me. So going through Personal Story in Heart of Thorns gives you 15 of these ascended sparks. So if you have a weaponsmith and if you have charged quartz, you're golden. You can earn tons of cash. That was the main thing I did. I put my account into a crazy amount of gold. I've spent tons lately. On streams, I tend to be a little bit more blasé with money just for the entertainment of it. Before Heart of Thorns came out, we rolled a bunch of great swords hoping for a precursor. Never got one. We obviously did the ectoplasm gambling. So, you know, I was down a lot of cash, but I managed to recuperate a lot of it. Really, you guys should know about that. It's one of those things you might think, oh, now that Wooden Potatoes is talked about in a video, there's probably not that much money. But this is fairly well known. To a lot of people, this is fairly well known. And there are so many guilds out there that are trying to make these leyline infused tools that price is fairly stable. You got to consider as well, there's a lot of other restrictions. Not many people have done the story. You don't even have to finish the story, by the way. You just got to get to Act 3 of the story and they'll start rolling in. Not many people have got that far into the story. If you have, though, you're sitting on a lot of money right away. The other big thing, of course, and I haven't talked about on the channel, I want to, kind of for completion's sake, is flax. So flax is something I really just started to look into today, and in the background on the footage, you'll see me farming for it now. You can get a lot of money from flax. So what's the deal with it? Basically, anywhere you gather plants in the jungle, you can get these flax seeds. You use a lot of them to create linseed oil, right? And linseed oil is used in tons of the decoration crafting and scribing stuff and guild stuff, loads of it. But it's also used in Night Fury. So again, this is probably the last you'll hear me talking about Night Fury until maybe I get it. This is the super rare Halloween shoulder piece. Basically, it's a legendary shoulder piece at this point. It costs so much money to get. From what we already knew of the recipes, it was very expensive. It costs like a legendary gift, the gifts you need for Twilight. It costs a bunch of ectos already. It costs a ton of bloodstone dust. The recipe has now fully been found. And what it's going to cost you is 250 glacial lodestones and tons of flax. We're talking like over 1,000 gold worth of this stuff. Lots and lots of money just for this one shoulder piece. I think some people in the community who are hunting for it may be a little bit disappointed in this, but I am the absolute opposite. I really like now that there's some ultimate badass prestige item that we can go for if we like for these bats, that they'll stay rare, that you'll very only occasionally see people wearing them. But as time goes by and guilds finish off and scribes, you know, sort of finish doing what they're doing, you'll see flax comes down and you'll see glacial lodestones are pretty cheap. They're the cheapest of the lodestones of them all, so they might spike up for a little while, but they'll go back down. In fact, I actually think now if you're going to invest in glacial lodestones, it's probably right now is a good time to do it. And then you can cash in before the prices go back down again. But this is a lot of money. Night Fury is definitely way out of my range, but it's cool to have it complete. To cap off the whole Night Fury story, though, I'm a bit sad or the actual final recipe. It was essentially just combine some random stuff together, like some toxic spores and things together as one of the disciplines. And then there you go, you've got the last piece you need for the whole puzzle, which is a real shame, actually. You know, the little teasers the devs did, or specifically one dev did, where you know, we had pictures of Night Fury from How to Train Your Dragon. There were a lot of really cool ideas. I did a stream where people were sending me items to try in the Forge to create this thing. There were a lot of really creative original thoughts out there, and it ended up to just be kind of, these random items that happen to cost a whole ton of money. But yeah, I'm very happy with the final result of Night Fury stuff, and I do want to craft it for myself in the end, so I started looking into getting flax, because that's going to be a big thing. This isn't something I've done until this day. I wish I'd been doing it earlier, and I definitely advise you guys to do this too. Below Jaka Itzel, in the roots of the jungle, there is actual floor. So one of my disappointments with Heart of Thorns, Verdant Brink specifically, was we've been hearing from the devs, oh, you know, you got these 3 layers. You got the middle area, the floor. You've got the canopy above, and I had a good idea of what the canopy would like just from the betas. But then you had the roots, and in all the betas, you'd look down and it'd be like, oh man, there's all these adventures and cool canyons and caves and stuff you could go down there. It's really not like that in Heart of Thorns. I talked about this, I think, on my first vlog after the game came out. It's really not like that. There is stuff to explore down there, but it's mostly just another gliding area. You know, you get gliding, you get updrafts, There are a couple of ruins and small map completion things sporadically dotted around down there, but it's the same situation as it was with the betas, where if you fall, you just let yourself drop. 97% of the time, you're just gonna fall into nothingness, hit some roots and die. There is no actual playable terrain down there. There is no floor to walk around on. With one exception. Underneath the Itzel village, you can see to the north, right at the start of Verdant Brink, you will have seen me walk to on this video, there is floor down there. And that alone is exciting enough for me. That's great. And on the floor, you get these cool little Itzel people. There's a couple of villagers that run away whenever mobs come nearby. There's a couple of super overpowered allied Itzel friends who blow up any mobs that come close. And they're basically just harvesting flax down there. It's a big flax farm. You can take any character, any level 80 character to this place. It's right at the start of Verdant Brink. You just get your level 80 characters, just run them into Verdant Brink, glide slightly to the north. In less than 5 minutes, you can have your characters planted at this area to gather. And as you should have seen on the footage, when you gather these flax seeds, you sell them. It takes you just a couple of minutes of pressing F. It's like 5 gold at the moment. 5 gold, 5 gold, 5 gold. And again, this has been well known. They were worth far more money a while ago. Like a matter of days ago, because again the demand for flax was even higher back then. People profited massively off of this. You can get that flax and put all your level 80s there, then you never have to move them again. You just log in after daily and just press F a few times. It's the equivalent of an entire dungeon run before Heart of Thorns came out, worth of cash just there on the flax. This obviously will go away eventually as demand lowers and the supply stays where it's at, but you know, if you guys want to make hay while the sun is shining, definitely do it now. I regret not having done it to this point. And if I could share that with all you guys and drop the price of flax a little bit so that maybe Night Fury is a bit easier for me to get, then that's very cool. Lodestones, though, I think either you buy them now before they spike too high, or you just wait a long time for them to drop back down. So that's making money. I did talk to you guys yesterday about some of these new achievements. The new maps are full of achievements. I've only just started to appreciate them and look at them. And specifically, I wanted to try out some of these new hunt achievements, like the Karka hunting in Lion's Arch. I chose to do the one in the Auric Basin, which allows you to eventually unlock an Aurelium node for your home instance. So you press H, you look at all these little clues about where to go, and you try and find all the exalted masks in the map. I did this entirely within game. I didn't need outside assistance. That itself is fantastic. I did have a little less fun doing this than I had with the Karkas. The Karkas had some interesting like sound design to them, like you'd know you were nearby because you could hear them scutting around and you'd have to look. The Karka took you to generally more interesting places too. But I do feel like I explored a lot more of the Auric Basin than I otherwise would have. I spent hours in the second map doing just this achievement yesterday, and none of it even takes you into the central city, which is a huge component of the entire map. It's all like in these cool little outside jungly areas. I really got to appreciate the map much more, but I do rate it a little lower than the Karka hunting in Lion's Arch. The little clues, for example, they basically just seemed like, you know, it felt like I was on game FAQs, and they were very bland, basic instructions. Oh, go on, it's on a rock overlooking this area. Okay, I'll go there. Oh, it is there. They weren't, like, riddly enough. There is another one of these achievements, something very similar to this in the Auric Basin too, though, where you're finding dead priory. And when you look at the hints for this, they're so much better. They're so much more flavorful. It's like this Char was last seen with a pack slung over his shoulder before being mauled to death by, you know, a stealth Itzel. That's your clue for that guy. And they're so much more flavorful. I wish that the masked one was too. But again, minor things. It was very fun. The reward is a bit of a kicker too. So I read on the achievement panel that the reward was an Aurelium ingot in your home instance. That's exciting to me. Why? Because I've always enjoyed building my home instance up. I have everything you can have from the home instance. Just before Heart of Thorns came out, I focused all my farming efforts into getting money to max out my home instance. I have everything that the Gem Store ever gave. I have everything that's available through Black Lion chests. I have everything that's available through any Living World update, and I wanted more nodes. I wanted to flesh it out more. You know, there's some stupid excitement that I still can't get over for myself when I unlock something new in my home instance. You map in there, and you get to see where the devs, you know, nicely little placed it. You know, when you unlock trees and you go to Holbrack, you find that the trees you've unlocked for your instance are planted in little plant pots. Those touches are really fun and a big reason why I do it, honestly. So how did this achievement handle things? What was my Aurelium node going to look like? Where was it going to be? Well, it looks just like a regular gold node, so it doesn't have a unique look. And it comes bugged inside one of your pre-existing nodes if you have others, which was Mithril. Great. At least for Divinity's Reach, that's what it was like. So it was like no effort really had gone into it. It didn't feel special at all. It just felt dumped in there, and I felt, you know, kind of crappy about that at that point. That said, harvesting it does give you a lot of the map-wide currency for free every day, so it's a nice reward for that. But I hope they do touch up on that flavor and, you know, actually give it a dedicated spot and maybe a decent look to it. How hard can that really be? Just reuse some other asset that you've been using in Terraria, right? Just shrink it down, boom, you're done. Anyway, still plenty more to do. Still haven't even really been to the 4th map. Yes, the story does kind of take you there, but not in the way you'd expect. And returning to the maps, doing a bunch of these achievements is basically on my list going forward. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I'd love to hear how you're finding Heart of Thorns is, you know, almost a week in now. We're almost a week in. How have your reactions been? I'm specifically curious to druids about that druid change. And don't forget what I said earlier about maybe making some money for themselves. I know I regret not having done it earlier. So thanks, guys. A little warning as well. There will be no stream tomorrow. I've got family business to attend to. But after that, restarting on Friday, the streams will be back on. I just want to let you guys know. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you next time.